Are you the quantum mechanics?
Yes, we are the Quantum Mechanics, the paranormal podcast for the believers, the doubters, and everything in between. Isn't it weird when one of the stories that you covered ages ago, which was not clearly, but the Mad Gasser of Mantoon.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, it's a good story, that. This was the story that there was a guy walking around town just kind of gassing people in their beds.
That's right. And it was almost like a mass hysteria thing. People were collapsing in their houses, phoning the police. There was no real sighting. There were some people saying they saw a man or whatever, but there was no sort of specific sighting of anyone with any machinery. But people said they smelt this sickly sweet aroma, and then they would feel lightheaded. Some people were passing out. And then it sort of turned out that it would actually be very, very, very difficult to gas people in their own houses with some portable equipment.
Yeah.
And then it's reported, I saw there's multiple sources yesterday, this from the Metro, Nick Grimshaw and mother sedated by gang who pumped knockout gas into Ibiza villa before breaking in.
So Nick Grimshaw's, he's the DJ, isn't he? Radio 1 and TV presenter as well.
That's right, yeah. If you're not familiar with him, sort of imagine like he does like the biggest breakfast show in the UK on the radio, basically.
Wow.
And yeah, so I then found that news source on the BBC, that news report on the BBC and Sky News, none of them talking about this gassing element. That seemed to be restricted to the papers. And then when you go into the article, there isn't a great deal more detail there. But I just thought, well, that's strange, because that very much feels like something that may be, I'm not going to say, I can't say it's untrue because I wasn't there, but it seems far-fetched, but unusual if true. And I'm glad they're okay, of course, because this is real people, so we must be careful what we say. But yeah, extraordinary.
Well, I just keep thinking, Nick Grimshaw, in terms of kind of build and stature, he's no Joe Rogan, is he? So him and his mum, I can't imagine would be much of a threat if somebody wanted to kind of, burgle them, or a home invasion. Seems a strange thing to do, to gas them first.
Like, maybe they don't know who's in there. Like those villas sometimes.
Yeah, true.
I mean, if you've ever been to Ibiza, you know what it's like. Those hills where the fancy ones are, particularly around the German areas, like big cars, fancy cars. Security,
probably. Mink bodyguards. Yeah. You don't know what you're going into. But still, it's a strange way of doing it. So did they, is there more detail? Did they get knocked out by the gas, or they just choking on it?
Well, no. The report says that they were made to feel drowsy and go to sleep, but on the Sky News report it just says they were asleep while they were burgled, which seems a lot more likely. I don't know where this idea of the gassing comes from, so it's an emerging story, so I guess we'll keep an eye on it. That only happened yesterday, and I saw it quite late in the evening, so interesting.
Really interesting. Well, that didn't happen to me while I was on holiday last week.
Well, that's good. That's good. You did do a lot of exercise, though, you said?
We were staying on the Cotswolds answer to the American Great Lakes. And now, I must say I'm slightly over-egging it a little bit, Ben. It was more a selection of water-filled quarries, but idyllic nonetheless. Yeah, no, it was lovely. It was a lovely place.
That's what Waitrose would call it. Yeah. A delightful selection of water-filled quarries.
Yeah. Lots of exercise, bike riding a lot. There was a swimming pool, did a bit of swimming. And, of course, there were the Great Lakes. And I did quite a lot of kayaking while I was over there. So I'd go out during the day, bit of kayaking on the lake, and then come back and work on this ep, which was perfect because this ep is kind of water-based.
10 out of 10 for Segway.
Yeah, there you go. For me, I don't know about you, Ben, but there's something about being on the water which has a bit of a spooky vibe for me. I mean, the lake I was kayaking on, if the boat turned over, I could have literally stood up with my head above the waves. So, I wasn't in great danger. But it's unsettling because the water's quite dark, so you can't see what's underneath there. And when the wind picks up and a few little waves start happening and the kayak's rocking, and there's this weird thing with these kayaks, maybe it's to do with my body weight, but they do kind of fill up with a bit of water. They're not going to sink because they really float, but you're kind of sitting in water, which makes it even a little bit weirder. So I didn't experience anything paranormal on the water, unless you count the cramps I got in my thighs from kayaking. I didn't think you could get cramp in your thighs from kayaking, but the way you sit in it was almost like doing a half sit-up for hours on end.
Look, at our age, you get cramp in your thighs from eating spaghetti, so
that is true.
I wouldn't be surprised.
So nothing scary apart from that from me, but some people have had some very scary encounters with ghosts on top of, in, or under the waves. And today we're going to take a deep dive into some of those encounters. Now, just to be clear, we're not talking weird creatures or cryptids. We've covered a lot of that in the past. No,
these are spirits.
These are just water-based ghosts or spirits.
Okay.
Now, before we submerge ourselves in the oceans, I promise no more.
Did you have a glass of wine while you were writing?
Yeah, you could tell I was in a holiday vibe, can't you? We're going to start with a much smaller body of water, a rock pool in Australia called Babinda Boulders. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No, but that's a good name, isn't it? I think I went to school with Babinda Boulders.
Yeah. Now, when you look at photos, you see a beautiful location with a number of crystal clear water pools that make up what is known as Babinda Boulders. However, the locals use another name for this area.
The Haunted Rock Pool.
Worse than that.
Oh, the Devil's Rock Pool?
Devil's Pool.
No way!
Yes.
I didn't even read ahead.
And local Aboriginal communities say the pool has a haunted history. According to the legend, a beautiful young girl called Ulana from the Yindinjai tribe married a respected elder called Warunu. But this is a story we've come across before, Ben. After they were married, Ulana fell for a handsome young man from another tribe.
Oh, well, that will happen.
Yeah. Now, the two ran away together, but were hunted down by Ulana's tribe and were captured. Ulana broke free from her captors and threw herself into the waters of Devil's Pool to escape. And while she was struggling in the water, she begged her lover to join her. The legend goes her tears turned the still water into a rushing torrent. Now, according to that legend, Ulana still guards the pool and her calls to her lover can still be heard to this day.
So they both died in this... See, when you said rock pool, I was thinking the sort of thing you find crabs in when you're 8, but this is a big pool. It's a big lake.
Yes, I saw photos of it. It's not like... I think it's a number of small pools, but as we'll get into, some of them go down incredibly deep.
Oh, okay.
Now, Ulana is said, or her ghost at least, to lure people into the pool, hoping that they will be her lover. When she realises they are not her love, those who have been lured suffer a terrible fate.
Oh, no.
Now, since 1959, Devil's Pool was said to have claimed the lives of 19 victims.
Wow. I mean, I presume that's also because it's quite a dangerous, like, slippy area with steep sides, hard to get out of, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Now, out of those 19 victims, and this is what I think has helped the legend, all but 2 of those victims that have died have been men.
Oh, okay, yeah, that would...
So it strengthens this legend that Ulana is still searching for her long-lost love and luring men into the pool, hoping that they are her lover, and when they realise it's not, when she realises they're not, game's over for them.
Right, yeah.
On one occasion, this is weird, a young couple were admiring the view of Devil's Pool, so they were just sitting on the rocks by the side of the pool. Suddenly, the waters rose up, sweeping them both into the pool. The young woman survived to tell the tale, but unfortunately her male companion did not. Can you imagine? It's like it was. The story goes, apparently it was quite calm and peaceful. They're just sitting on rocks next to the water pool, and suddenly the water just rose up, dragged them into the water.
I mean, again, I would presume that's down to underground pressure chambers and...
Well, you're right. So more sceptic locals will tell you that the pool has a strong undercurrent, which doesn't help, and that water chutes, this is amazing, that go down to depths of 8 metres. So that's about 26 feet deep.
That is a long way, isn't it? Yeah.
There are also underwater caves and rocks where even an experienced swimmer could easily be trapped. Oh, this is terrible, gasping for air.
No.
Can you imagine you just drift into it?
No, that's one of my worst. I don't even want to talk about it. It's awful.
Yeah, we won't go into detail of that. In 2008, after another death, the authorities declared the site a no-swim zone, thankfully, and erected a sign.
Took him long enough.
Yeah, erected a sign that reads, "This creek has claimed many lives. Wet rocks are extremely slippery. Beware rapidly rising water levels. Do not swim in the main creek downstream of this point."
Good advice.
But many Aboriginal elders will tell you that it's all the work of the ghost of Ulana.
A vengeful spirit.
Vengeful spirit longing for their lot. There's a lot of ghost stories that follow that theme, aren't there? The kind of, somebody who's married to somebody that they don't want to be, and then they find this secret love, run away together. They're either killed tragically or in an accident, and then they haunt the location. It's a common trope, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Now, I couldn't find any accounts of sightings of Ulana's ghost. I guess it's more the belief that she is responsible for the many deaths that have occurred at that location. But there are some reports of hearing her cries for her lover that people have talked about. But there is a haunted pool that has many documented sightings of a ghost. In fact, this pool is said to be one of the most haunted locations in Hong Kong, and this one is known as Bride's Pool.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Devil's Pool, Bride's Pool is set in an idyllic location in the hills of Tai Po in Hong Kong. Now, the tourist brochures will tell you it's a picturesque location that attracts hikers and lovers of the great outdoors, with its tranquil waters and beautiful cascading waterfalls. But the location hides a tragic past, one that gave it its name of Bride's Pool. There are slight variations of this story, Ben, depending on the source. I'm mainly going to rely on the version from ghoststories.sg, which is a Singaporean ghost website. The legend of Bride's Pool dates back to the early 20th century, during the colonial era of Hong Kong. In a small, close-knit village near the pool, a young woman named Lai Mai was about to marry the love of her life, Chen Wai. On the morning of her wedding day, Lai Mai was wearing the traditional vibrant red dress known as Cheong Sam, which symbolises happiness and good fortune on your wedding day. But this wasn't going to be the case for Lai Mai. Now, it's traditional in the culture that the bride is carried to her new home and the wedding in a procession that includes family and friends, and she's carried in a chair. So you're basically hoisted up in a chair, and then the whole procession takes her to a new location. Seems like a nice tradition, right?
I don't like heights.
Well, you won't like this either. This journey took the procession along a winding path that skirted around the edge of the pool. One of the bearers carrying the chair stumbled and lost their footing on the slippery rocks. Li Mai was thrown into the cold waters of the pool. The procession tried to rescue her from the waters, but the bride was swept away by the strong currents, and Li Mai was never seen again, or at least not in human form.
Not in human form?
Nope. Now, for decades, the story of Mai's tragic end remained a sombre tale told by the locals as a cautionary tale of how dangerous the waters in this idyllic location could be. But as time has gone on, sightings of a ghost-like figure in a vibrant red dress began to emerge. Hikers and other visitors to the pool reported seeing a woman in a red Cheong Sam, often at dusk, brushing her hair by the water's edge. The first documented sighting was in the late 1960s, when a group of night hikers claimed they saw the woman in red. She was sitting by the pool, brushing her long black hair with a silver comb. They initially thought it was another late-night visitor like themselves, so approached to say hello. As they drew closer, the woman lifted her head, revealing hollow, sorrowful eyes.
I hate that idea of, empty eye sockets.
It's very Southeast Asian culture, that, isn't it, as well? Lots of Japanese horror movies kind of go for that.
Oh, yeah, like The Ring.
Like The Ring. Oh, yeah. Well, as they approached, she vanished into the mist, leaving the group terrified. Other encounters have followed this pattern, including a group of tourists visiting the location during the daytime. They spotted the ghostly apparition on the other side of the pool combing her hair. The apparition noticed the tourist was staring at her, turned her head, revealing her hollow eyes again, and then vanished.
The long hair's a trope as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and the combing, because it's such a kind of innocent gesture, it kind of adds to the spookiness, doesn't it? Others claim they have seen the ghostly bride's reflection in the water of the pool when they look into it. That would be freaky as well.
Yeah, there's a few that we spoke a while ago about Jenny Greenteeth, who you could see in the pool. That reminds me of that.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Some have just heard the ghost cries and reported that the air becomes thick and cold when they approach the spot.
Like an angel delight.
Yes. Now, I don't know what you think, but these are great legends and ghost sightings, but I'm just struck by they probably just exist to prevent local children from drowning in the water, right?
Like Jenny Greenteeth, yes.
Like Granny Teeth.
Yes.
You know, if you tell a teenager it's not safe to swim in the pool, they'll ignore you, right?
Exactly, yes.
Tell them they have to deal with a scary supernatural force, they might listen, right?
Yes.
We don't seem to do as much of that today. It was very popular in the past.
It was very popular, yeah.
But I think what's interesting about that last story is the fact that visitors to the location have spotted this ghostly bride a lot later than when the thing occurred. So the sighting started in the 1960s. So from a sceptical point of view, I guess either the locals are playing an elaborate prank on visitors, having someone dress up as the bride. I don't know how they make them disappear, but, you know, it might not hurt the tourist trade to have that happening. Quite elaborate, though. Or some kind of mass hysteria has been going on. Now, I did wonder whether some kind of tulpa is being created because of the legend.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too.
It would explain why the visitors are seeing basically the same thing. This ghost in a red bridal gown combing their hair at the side of the pool. They're all kind of describing the same thing, right? So, yeah, maybe a tulpa has been made.
I mean, that would explain why all the ghosts sort of look similar in that region as well. That idea of, yes, you believe in it, you know, you manifest and they all kind of look... They're all scary women with long hair and no eyes.
It does feel that you have to have a certain level of tragedy to create a ghost, doesn't it? It's not like John was carrying a takeaway back from the shops and slipped and fell in the pool and he haunts it forevermore. You know what I mean?
With a hair full of chow mein or something.
Yeah, you never get that, do you?
No, you don't.
Well, Ben, from above the water, shall we move beneath the waves?
Let's go submarine.
Ben, have you ever been scuba diving?
No, I've been snorkeling.
Well, I did my PADI course about 18 years ago and I went on a few dives, but then I totally lost my mojo with it. I found that I would have a great time looking at the fish, and I remember went to a dive in Hawaii, and there was it's a weird story, but one of the guys from the Grateful Dead sunk, I think it was a VW Beetle below the waves, and it's now become a home for loads of turtles.
Oh, wow.
So you can go on this dive and you can go and see the turtles, and they're amazing to watch because they're like either in or on the car, and the little bubbles are coming up from their noses, and then every kind of 10 minutes or so they go up to the surface, get a bit of air and come back down again. It's really beautiful. So I loved all that, but then I get this moment where all of a sudden I get the realisation that I'm meters under the water, and the only thing keeping me alive is the tank on my back with oxygen in and this kind of slightly mouthpiece which I'm kind of chewing to death, you know, because I'm so kind of terrified. I would also realise, because of the risk of getting the bends, I couldn't just pop up to the surface when I felt like it. So even if you're only like, you know, 8 metres down, it's not like you can just shoot straight back up. You'll get the bends and you'll be really ill. So all that started to freak me out. And this was while I was scuba diving with my partner, who's a qualified rescue diver, so really experienced. She used to work in a dive shop and everything. So, like, she's really great, but I still couldn't get over the fact. It just hit me. It's like, I'm under here, I'm quite a way down, and I can't just go to the surface. What if I run out of air? I've got,
Yeah. Well, you start building the panic in your head. It's like I get it when you know that sort of moment when you're doing definitely just the speed limit, but on the fast lane of the motorway and it's raining and you're like, ooh, one false move and we're dead. It's I totally get that thought, because as soon as you've had that thought, you can't get out of it. Yeah.
Thought of freaking out under the water is terrifying enough, but imagine if you encounter a ghostly apparition deep below the waves.
Nope. Nope.
Well, Ben, take a long gulp of air and we'll have a look at some stories where people have encountered ghosts and ghouls while diving.
I was reading the other day, actually I think it's in the Fortean Times, an artist, I think in Sweden, in a diving area has put like a large sculpture of like a megalodon.
Oh, really?
So as you're swimming down there, you see this like quite terrifying shark-like thing. That would do it. That would be me never going. I wouldn't even have a bath after that.
You basically burn through your kind of oxygen pretty quickly, wouldn't you?
Oh, God, yeah. No.
This is the thing I had with my partner, because I'd be so nervous. I'd be like... like that. Because she's quite an experienced diver. She'd still have like half a tank left when I was running out, you know. So she'd take me back up and then I'll be like, oh, I'm going to wait half an hour for her now.
Yeah.
Well, ghost encounters under the waves are not something you generally hear about.
No.
And I guess that's because there's a lot of ocean out there and we rarely explore it, right? But I did find some interesting underwater sightings. Now, one of the strangest I came across is a sighting of the ghost of Steve Irwin.
No way.
Now, most of you will know Steve Irwin, the famous zoologist and conservationist known as the crocodile hunter, who tragically died in 2006 while filming a stingray at Bat Reef, which is part of the Great Barrier Reef. I think didn't he try and capture it and then got hit by the barb on the back and died. Yeah, very, very sad. Well, according to aquaticcommunity.com, a former Italian Navy diver called Pino Termini came across the ghost of Steve while diving at Bat Reef, the very location Irwin met his tragic death. The diver said, "As I started my dive, I saw somebody and was surprised because I saw no other boats around. Then I noticed that the person had no oxygen tank or mask. The person swam towards me, and I realised that it was none other than the crocodile hunter himself, Steve Irwin. I freaked out, but he looked calm and at peace. I've seen a lot of underwater, but I've never seen a ghost."
That's crazy.
It was as if he was looking after the spot where he met his end. I felt that I should not impose myself on his turf, as it was his, and it seemed as if he was caring for the living creatures there.
It's just kind of like as he was in his last moments.
Yeah, exactly that. No,
Free swimming.
No oxygen or mask, and so the guy. Hey, can you imagine how freaky that is? It's like going down and going, well, I'm sure we're the only boat here, and then suddenly there's somebody swimming there without a mask, deep under the water without a mask or oxygen. You go, oh, it's Steve Irwin. How weird.
That is weird. I don't know if I would find that peaceful or scary.
Yeah, it seemed that from his tale, I mean, there's not much more to the story than that, but it seems from his take on it, he was freaked at first, and then something about the ghost just looked so calm and serene that it calmed him down and just thought, I'll just leave it and get on with my day. But this is a guy who dived for the Italian Navy for 7 years, and he's still a regular diver. He goes around, different parts of the world diving.
So he's got credibility.
Yeah, and he says he saw the ghost of Steve Irwin at the very location that he lost his life. I mean, I just kept thinking, it's not as if this guy's unfamiliar with being under the water, so he's not going to mistake a fish or something else for a ghost or be freaked out by it. So, yeah, it was really weird. Now, I guess unless the story is made up, which of course is a possibility, But I just thought as well that would be pretty disrespectful to
Yes,
Steve
it would
Irwin's
be.
family.
Yeah,
wouldn't
because
it?
especially because of his kids are they're quite famous, really, aren't they?
Well, they're following in his footsteps, aren't they? So,
yeah.
I think to make up a ghost sighting of somebody who's pretty recently deceased and has family members, I think is a bit distasteful if that's what has happened. But, but again, it's like we often say, I'm not sure what that diver would gain from making such a story up.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
No, really interesting, that one.
Well, Ben, we often say it, but I just love where researching this podcast takes you.
Muller Rice, usually.
Yeah, Muller Rice. Well, I'm going to quote from an article that I came across in Scuba Diving magazine by James Rausch Pearce, who lists the world's top 10 most haunted diving sites.
Oh, go Roushy.
Oh, love this. Should we do a little countdown, Ben?
Go on then, and pretend you're Bruno Brooks again.
Yeah. Do. At number 10, we have Little Devil Eyes and Devil Ear Caves in Genie Springs, Florida.
Look, everybody, there's a rule. If it says devil something...
There's something going on,
There's
right?
something, just leave it alone. Devil's Rock, Devil's Pool, Devil's Sea, no.
Well, Scuba Diving magazine says, diving in a natural spring is beautiful, but when it's Little Devil's Eye and Devil's Ear Caves at Ginny Springs, it can also be a little scary. With strong currents and temperatures that drop to 22 degrees Celsius, especially in Devil's Ear, even experienced divers have perished here. I was reading that thinking, is 22 degrees C that cold? I guess if it's water, it is. Yeah. It's kind of what it is here.
It's what it is here. Maybe... I don't know anything about it. I wouldn't have thought that was particularly cold. But
maybe what they mean is the temperature drops by 22
Oh,
degrees.
yeah,
C.
maybe.
Maybe that's it. Others have described something like a vortex inside the cave, which makes many disorientated. Some believe it could be the spirits of a deceased diver looking for help. So not much detail on that one. That's a real kind of basic one. Let's just get us going, Ben.
Okay.
At number 9, wreck of the RMS Rhone. So this is located on Salt Island, or near Salt Island, in the British Virgin Isles. This Royal Mail ship sank in October 1867 during the San Narciso hurricane. The captain tried to escape the storm, but shifting winds slammed his boat into Black Rock Point. God, this would be scary. The crash broke the ship's back in two, so I guess the boat just broke in half. Oh, this is horrible as well. The cold water caused the boiler on the ship to explode. The ship now rests about, it's quite vague this, between 30 and 80 feet deep. I guess maybe different parts of it in different places. Nearly at the bottom of Black Rock Point. And divers have reported seeing people frantically swimming for the surface wearing no diving gear.
Oh, no.
When the divers approach them to assist them, the frantic swimmers just disappear without a trace.
Of course. The thing about underwater is that you can mistake so many things for the human form.
Yeah.
Just when paddling this in the seaside, you go, oh my God, there's a decomposing body. Oh no, it's some seaweed.
Yeah.
And I guess that's my only skepticism. But if you're an experienced diver, you probably know all that, so I'm not going to argue against it.
My one of my early experiences of snorkeling, I was in the Indian Ocean, and this island had a little kind of inlet lagoon thing. So I'd never scuba dived before, so I thought I'll give it a go in there because it's not going to be rough. It's going to be nice and easy. So I'm going along, and then I'm confronted in my mask with what I thought was a giant shark. And I absolutely freaked out. Again, I was
Wait. So you're swimming into inland, basically?
It was just a little kind of almost like a cove.
Right, okay.
But it's seawater. So stuff can come in and out. So I'm scuba diving along, and there's this giant shark in front of me. Now, this is like water up to my waist. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm deep. So I just freak out and stand up. And then I see this really minute baby shark just swim off into the distance. I felt so stupid. I mean, this thing was like, less than a foot long. But obviously it swam straight at my mask. And I'm like, ah!
Oh, my God. I can see, that would freak me out as well, to be honest.
Well, should we go for number 8? The wreck of SS Thistlegorm. So this is located in the Red Sea in Egypt. 2 bombs dropped by a German aircraft sank the SS Thistlegorm in October 1941. At the time, it was loaded with military supplies for the British Navy. Jacques Cousteau discovered the ship and its cargo in the 1950s. Among the ship's contents were Bedford trucks, armoured cars, steam locomotives and artillery. Imagine that, you're Jacques Cousteau, you find this thing and then it's just loaded with all this equipment. That always fascinates me about. There must be hundreds and hundreds of these wrecks out there that are just kind of untouched, that nobody's actually ever seen. And if you go down there, it's like a little time capsule, isn't it?
Yeah.
To this day, divers of the wreck frequently report hearing machinery and seeing shadowy figures aboard the wreckage. So apparently all these trucks, armoured cars, steam locomotives are whirring away down there below the waves.
Ooh. That is a bit freaky.
At number 7, we have the wreck of the SS Andrea Doria. And this is in Nantucket in Massachusetts. I'm sure there's a limerick about that.
I was going to say that's my favourite limerick, yes. There was an old ship in Nantucket, etc.
Yeah. Now, this Italian ocean liner sank in 1956 after it was accidentally struck by the MS Stockholm. At 160 feet deep, so that's over 48 metres, so that's quite a long way down. The ship is recommended for experienced divers only. Yeah, no joke there. 16 divers have perished here as a result of the strong currents, heavy sediment and fishing lines or nets. Oh, that'd be terrible, wouldn't it? You're that far down, you get stuck in a fishing line or a net. I guess that's why you always go with the buddy, right?
Or don't go.
Divers have described seeing things moving in their peripheral vision of their dive masks and being touched by phantom sources on their arms and legs. Could lost souls from the wreck still be reaching for rescue?
Or it's seaweed.
But again, the one thing I would say about that is if you're diving that deep, you've got a lot of dive hours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you know when something is kind of strange like that. At number 6, the wreck of a Messerschmitt ME323, also known as Gigant or Giant, and this is located in Sardinia in Italy. This is even deeper. It's off the coast of Italy. It's 200 feet under the water. That's 60 metres down. It's a World War I German military aircraft which sank after being shot down by the British Bristol Beaufighter in July 1943. The crew went down with the plane, and apparently their spirits still linger within the aircraft. This is so weird. Divers have reported seeing a pilot and crew in the cockpit.
No, I don't like that.
When they go up to examine it closer, they suddenly disappear. That would just... what a freaky thing to see. A kind of plane under the water with people sitting in it.
I don't know, I get this thing. Do you ever do this when you're walking across a car park and it's very, very hard to tell if there is somebody sitting in a car or not, because sometimes the driver's seat and it, like a coat hanging off it, whatever, it's very hard to see, even quite close up, whether there's somebody sitting in a car. I wonder whether it is the brain filling in information there.
Yeah. Almost like a pareidolia type
Exactly,
effect.
yeah.
I think you could be right. And I think, I mean, that one's not in the peripheral vision, but, you know, I have that sometimes on land where you just, out the corner of your eye, you think you've seen someone moving and there's no one there. Imagine what that's like underwater with a mask on.
Yeah.
The next one's located at Chuuk, which is also known as Truk Lagoon, in Micronesia in the Central Pacific. In 1944, Truk was devastated by a major naval and air attack called Operation Hailstone. The offensive by the United States against the Japanese lasted 3 days and resulted in the sinking of an American carrier, dozens of other warships, merchant ships and aircraft. Located at 1,118 miles north of New Guinea, it is the largest known maritime war grave in the world. Divers have reported hearing voices and ghostly truck engines while diving there. The site and its spooky, unknown occurrences have been featured in many documentaries. So that's a whole, effectively, battle that has kind of sunk down from the surface to the depths. Very bizarre.
That is very bizarre. So, is it apparitions or is it noises or?
Well, we'll get on to a bit of that. I was wondering if what struck me with a lot of these examples, maybe it's the way the researcher has worked, but there are a lot of ones concentrated on World War II and sunken ships of that time, which would lend to some kind of ghost connection. I know we've talked about ghosts being other things, but this would lend to ghosts being the spirits of the dead if these sightings are correct. Maybe even some kind of underwater stone tape theory happening where it's replaying, you know, the pilots sitting in a plane in the cockpit still thinking that they're trying to save themselves. Yeah, they would make sense in that sense.
Yeah. And that sort of sticking with the water, you know, like the Queen Mary that's moored up now in the US. Lots of ghost hunters go there.
Right.
And that is supposed to be very haunted because of its use in the Second World War, bringing soldiers back from Europe.
Yeah.
It's the tragedy and emotional impact.
Yeah.
In that particular, with that vehicle or with that vicinity, yeah.
Which would lend itself to, if you buy into stone tape theory, that it's something about the extremeness of the emotion that creates it, right? But again, you kind of end up asking yourself the same question. Why don't we see ghost fish? But then I guess we wouldn't know what they were.
Yeah, that's right. How would we know they were even ghosts? Yeah.
Well, at number 4, we've got the wreck of the USAT Liberty. And this is located in Bali, Indonesia. A Japanese submarine's torpedo struck this US cargo ship in January 1942, leaving it beached. It didn't have much luck, but then a volcanic eruption in 1963 relocated the ship from the beach and into the sea, where it rests at a depth of 30 to 100 feet. Many divers, this is a weird one as well, have reported seeing something in the water heading quickly towards them, but the mysterious figure dissolved away. Some people believe it could be residue energy from the torpedo that struck that day. So people are saying they're seeing the replay of the torpedo hitting the boat.
Yeah, that's interesting. So that's like there's literally a ghost machine. That's not a spirit, really.
You know, but
that's more stone tapey.
Yeah, and a lot of those stories have it, doesn't it? The sound of engines and underwater. It would lend you to believe that stone tape doesn't just include the ghosts element. It has other mechanical things as well, if you believe in it. And number 3, we have the wreck of the SS Gulf America. This is located in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. Again, another World War II one. In April 1942, the German submarine U-123... Oh, that big... Imagine, you'd be really lucked out. We're never going to forget what our submarine's called.
I know, that's... In a way... Well, of course it makes sense it is called that. Yeah, that sounds weird, but yes.
We're on U-123. Brilliant.
Yeah.
It fired a torpedo at the SS Gulf America after sighting the American tanker off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida. The impact on the SS Gulf America, which was carrying over 100,000 barrels of furnace oil, resulted in a fiery explosion reportedly seen for miles along Florida's northeast coastline. Many divers have reported encountering strange sounds and seeing strange things in the water. This is weird as well. On the anniversary of the ship sinking, people on the shore have even reported seeing activity resembling the fatal torpedo striking the vessel. So yet another one where the torpedo can be seen. On to number 2, the wreck of Le Griffon, located near Poverty Island in Lake Michigan.
Is that the Griffin? Like, is that what it would be in
I
British?
guess it would, yeah. Yes.
Oh, I like the paranormal name.
Yeah. So René Robert-Sier de La Salle, oh, what a great name.
Oh, yeah, of the sea?
Yeah.
Of the salt?
René Robert-Sier de La Salle. That's a great name. That's like something out of Four Musketeers, isn't it?
It is.
So René Robert-Sier, I've said it 3 times in different ways, de La Salle was a French explorer of the Great Lakes and Mississippi region in the 17th century. On their return to France, La Salle and his 6 crew members aboard Le Griffon mysteriously vanished. Shipwreck hunter Steve Lebert believes he has positively identified the broken wreckage at this location to be the missing vessel. However, the wreck remains have not been officially identified. Sailors and divers have had odd experiences near the wreck. Divers reported that while looking up towards the surface, they witnessed a large ship sailing over them. When they managed to resurface, the ship is nowhere to be found. Sailors have also described seeing a misty ghost ship sailing towards them, but the vision quickly disappears. I love a ghost ship.
I love a ghost ship as well.
I love a ghost ship. So we're up to our number 1. This has got to be better than kind of a ghost ship appearing and disappearing. Got to be, hasn't it?
It's a shoal of ghostly mackerels.
Well, this one includes a 5-letter acronym. It's the wreck of the USCGC Comanche, and it's located in Charleston, South Carolina. I just want to sing that song now.
Yes, that's exactly what played in my head then, yeah.
Now, the Comanche worked as a convoy escort for much of World War II until it was attacked by German submarine U-233. Not as good as U-123.
Or you too.
It was attacked on January the 29th, 1943. Oil seeped out of the ship, covering the sea surface and choking many overthrown crew members. Life jackets with red lights were successfully used to spot survivors, but several hundred still died in the attack's aftermath. Paranormal sightings began when the ship was displayed at Patreon's Point in the 1980s, and they continued after the vessel was sunk to create an artificial reef roughly a decade later. Divers and sailors have both witnessed unexplained floating red lights like the one worn by the people in the sea.
Okay, that's quite spooky.
That is spooky, isn't it? It's probably,
I like the lights.
Yeah, it's much more spooky than seeing a ghost, isn't it?
It is.
I guess there's quite a lot of things that could create red lights under the sea, but still.
Well, I don't think that fluorescent plankton, I don't think that goes red. I think that's green.
I don't think so.
I mean, I might be wrong, but
I guess squid or octopus could be.
Possible.
Yeah.
I like that one though. That's I mean, again, wartime. It's a war thing.
Pretty much all of these have been wartime stories, haven't they? Yeah. Again, I guess it's a time when we were on the sea in great numbers, quite a lot. That's an interesting thing, isn't it?
Yes.
Is there more ships on the sea now than there was in World War II? And not a question I can answer. And probably, if we ask ChatGPT, they'll say,
It would tell you there's no such thing as ships.
yeah, or water. So if you fancy some underwater ghost hunting, there are some great locations to choose from, as we've just seen. And thanks to Jamie Rausch-Pierce, who wrote that article for Scuba Diving magazine. She's also written a number of books under the series titled Historic Haunts. So if you want to check out more of her work, go and check it out. I might have a read of those, because I quite like that research
I do too.
that she put into that. It's really good. So I was thinking, Ben, there are lots of ghost hunting groups out there, right?
Lots.
And I wondered if there's any that specialise in ghost hunts under the waves rather than on land. And I was surprised to find there are some underwater ghost hunting groups out there, including one called Paranormal Divers from Florida. What a great name. Now, I did go and try and check out their website, but it doesn't still exist. They were definitely doing ghost hunts a couple of years ago. So I think their last post on Facebook was in 2022. So they may have given up underwater ghost hunting. But I thought good for them for setting up one that just did that, right?
The name of their group sounds like a John Carpenter movie as well.
Yes. Yeah, so paranormal investigators with large tanks on their back diving under the water. I did wonder if you could get a waterproof EMF meter. And whether it'd work if it worked under the water as well.
Yeah.
Well, if it works at all.
Oh, that would be weird if it started going off.
Yeah, that would be very strange, wouldn't it? So there are a whole host of sightings out there and some underwater locations that seem to be haunted. I mean, they have that backstory, don't they? And multiple people have experienced what we would regard as paranormal activity under the waves. But to add a sceptical note, Ben, there are some good reasons why you might be more likely to see something paranormal or unexplained under the water compared to dry land. So from a sceptical point of view. I mean, let's face it, even if you're an experienced diver, it is a strange alien environment, right? You've got weird creatures that you don't come across every day. So the chances that you see something that you think is a ghost and it's not are quite likely, right?
Yeah.
I mean, light refracts and basically behaves differently underwater. And that's not to mention, I just kept thinking, when you wear a dive mask, it does distort, like my experience with the shark, the baby shark looking like something out of Jaws.
Yeah.
So your perception changes from wearing the mask and being underwater as well. And that is not to mention, I did a bit of medical research here, that's not to mention the effects of what you're breathing in. So one of the medical things I came across said, because the effects of various gases under pressure, each diver responds differently to abnormal psychological states and changes in their environment. Diving conditions such as decompression illness, inert gas narcosis, carbon dioxide toxicity, oxygen toxicity, high-pressure nervous syndrome and deep water blackouts all can cause reactions that are similar to a psychoneurotic reaction or an abnormal condition of the brain. Again, I remember talking to my partner about this. She used to do some kind of deep dives, and you use a nitrox, a nitrogen kind of mixture rather than an oxygen one. But as you get deeper, because of the pressure, it's like being drunk. So it's something like you get to a point where, this won't be exactly right, but every, 10 or 20 meters that you go down after a certain point is the equivalent of drinking a martini. And then the next time you go a bit deeper, it's like having another martini. So, some people get really drunk and just freak out at those depths. So, yeah. I mean, I started this by saying that ghosts under the waves seem less likely than on land, but given the additional factors I've just talked about, if you do see one, in many ways it's less likely to be a real ghost, isn't it? Because there are additional factors of being under the water that, make misinformation and the pressures on your brain, the stuff you're inhaling, more likely to mildly or fully hallucinate something, maybe.
I think so. And also, like, the fact that you can't see very well and that fear of the unknown, I think, plays into it.
Yeah.
I was just getting the name of the village. There's several where people claim when they made the reservoir and flooded a village, and you can hear the bell.
Those, haven't we? Yeah.
Yeah, so there's one in Italy, Lake Vagli, which is artificially made, and people say you can hear the ghost bell there. And then there's one at Derwent Water in the UK where, again, the ghost bell. And it's just, I think it's a trope built on many things, including what you say, like perhaps those scientific explanations, but also I think just very real human fear of things they can't see.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to go at it from a paranormal perspective, it's another one of those which did take me back to ghosts being the spirits of the dead or stone tape theory, because I'm fascinated by the amount of those that, especially those dive sites that relate to World War II. Now, there's something psychological that could be involved in that as well, but it is an interesting thought of that stone tape theory thing, especially people seeing torpedoes and red lights and hearing engines and all that kind of stuff. It is weird.
Yeah.
Or the brain is just incredibly powerful and, like you said, can fill in all those bits for you.
Well as that, there was a case of some what were called ghost rockets in Sweden that have happened over the course of the last 100 years. And then one of the explanations was that they might have been World War II experimental weapons,
right?
And we're seeing the ghost of those weapons. Now, there's many reasons why it probably isn't that, but again, that sort of stone tape theory and water and relating to a big emotional episode in time, other people have applied that in different areas of thinking around things that are similar in nature.
Yeah, definitely. Well, before we go, Ben, you'll be pleased to know that the classic ghost of a lady in a white dress also frequents the deep.
The Lady of the Lake.
Now, I came across this story on Reddit from a user called CN1250. They write, I'm a diver, and while this isn't my story, this was a friend of mine's experience. He worked at a dive centre I frequented. So the dive centre he worked at would often take people to a wreck dive. One time he was guiding a few guests for a wreck dive when he saw a woman in a white dress swimming at around 12 metres depth. He said that the woman was just floating around without any dive equipment and that she stared at the group. Someone else heard sounds too, as if someone was whimpering underwater. God, that woman in the white gets everywhere, doesn't she, Ben?
It's quite a busy apparition.
Yeah. I mean, for the agency, that must be their best booking. The ghost agency.
Rent a Ghost.
Rent a Ghost. That's got to be their best booking. So, yeah, fascinating. And who would have thought working on this podcast would let me spend so much time at Scuba Diving magazine?
Well, it takes you up and down all kinds of paths.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, thank you. Very good stories. And it just makes me... Because we said, the ghosts of dinosaurs, and obviously we've spoken many times about how Nessie might be the ghost. So Nessie might be the ultimate water ghost. You never know.
You never know. Would make more sense, maybe. Although the Kasabian project interdimensional being thing, I quite like that theory of Nessie as well. I guess if you think of it in that way, Loch Ness would be probably the most haunted water location in the world, wouldn't it? If it is some kind of ghost.
Yeah, that Cassiopean blog has been posting quite a lot on their Substack. And I said I'm not going to do it too often because I feel like, it's. I think for us it's much more entertainment based than scientific based, but it does give you some good insight. I'll do one in the new year because they're now at number 6 of their posts around alien abductions, and the last one was quite mind blowing. So we'll give them a little bit more time. But if you want to read ahead, I think I've mentioned it before. Go on to that Substack and give it a read. It is fun.
If you can drag yourself away from Scuba Diving magazine.
Exactly. Yes. I think they've got a special on flippers this month.
Well, we're back on dry land next week. If you want to hear more about this episode and some of the other stuff that we're working on, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/TQM pod, where you'll be able to hear Ben and Peter's extra scoop of this episode exclusively there, as well as the lovely community that we're building. Actually, one of the Patreons did mention a story, because I said last week on Patreon that I'd be doing something about underwater ghosts, and they sent some story in, but while I was on holiday I couldn't find it. I didn't know if it was Facebook or Patreon or where it had come from. I think it might have been Ket, I'm not 100% sure, but if you're listening to this and it was you, I wasn't ignoring it, I just couldn't find the link that you sent. So if you could send it again, and maybe we'll update in a future episode.
Yeah. We can we'll addend it to the next one because I remember it was a nice story.
Yeah, it was, and I was just like, I need to include it, but I just couldn't find it. Maybe it's because I was away. But yes, so back on dry land next week.
Excellent. See you then.
See you then.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Are you the quantum mechanics?